Legion, and welcome to my channel. My name is Ludi, and today we're going to do our EU4 starting moves guide for the nation of Ulm. And this guide will be going over the estates and economy, diplomacy and rivals, missions and early wars, ideas and playing toll, forming the nation of Swabia, Swabian ideas and missions, and later expansion. I want to point out that pretty much all of the free cities in the HRE have a very similar playstyle, so if you watch this guide, you kind of know how to play all the other free cities in the HRE. The only difference in itself being the location that you start off in, of course. If we manage to get this video to 1,000 likes, then I am going to do a giveaway for an EU4 DLC or the base game if you don't have it. And as always, I will be choosing the winner from among the comment section. So make sure to comment and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on. Before we begin with the estates themselves, I have to mention that every single one of the free cities in the HRE, and that means all the nations that are marked as blue colored on the map, start off with their own unique leader, which is randomly generated at the start of the game. That means that you will never have the same ruler a second time, and that means that the stats that they start off with are always going to be random. If you're willing enough to restart the game a few times, you can even start off with a 666 ruler, and that's going to give you 126 of each mana points from the very beginning, which you can start using to dev up your nation. As a free city, you actually have a -10 reform from the free city government reform that makes it cheaper to dev up your nation. Also, Ulm starts off in particular with cloth. That means another -10% dev cost reduction, and if you encourage development as your edict, then you're actually going to dev up for 43 at the very 1444 start date, so it's quite cheap considering. Before we start doing this, however, you need to head on over to the estates interface, and we're going to start by summoning the diet and going for whichever agenda best suits us. Now, why I say this is because a lot of the times your agenda is going to be to either dev up tax, manpower, or production, and I recommend that you take this agenda before you start deving up so you get a bit of extra boost to either prestige or your economy. Afterwards, we're gonna seize lands from the estates, which is gonna give us an extra 5% crownlands, but as you can see, we don't have that much crownlands. We only have 5% right now, and that is because we actually gave every single one of our estates the monthly military power, admin power, and diplo power privileges. The only time when I actually recommend that you give these privileges from the very beginning is when you start as a nation that has only one province in their home state. This is because you're going to get some massive debuffs from the crownlands that include Liberty Desire from Subject Development plus 100, Max Absolutism -40, National Tax Modifier -20%, and the worst of all, Monthly Autonomy Change plus 0.30. Now, this is horrible, but as this is your home state, the plus 0.30 monthly autonomy change is actually not going to change, because as your capital province, your autonomy cannot be higher than 0%. So that means you can get an extra +1 for each one of your mana points from the very start without having to worry about your autonomy increasing for the time being. The other privileges that we'll be giving to the estates include the right of council and the supremacy over the council, the oversight by the clergy, and the free enterprises. This is also one of the few times when I don't recommend that you give the monopoly on textiles, seeing as you're actually not going to get too much from your taxation, so you do need the extra production income from the start, otherwise you'd be going on the minus quite fast. So now that we fixed our estates, we need to dev up, simply because if we don't dev up, then nobody wants to be our friend. As you can see, only a couple of minor nations around want to ally us, and that is simply because of our army strength and our overall strength as a nation. Now this is easy fixable. As I said, we're going to dev up here, and we're going to start with deving up production and manpower, followed up by admin, and again one more time all three deving up, and that means we start off with 21 development rather than 15, as we deved up 6 times before we even unpaused. Deving up a couple of times means that we also increased our maximum land force limit, and it means that we can hire our beloved free company here, which has 4,000 units in it. Also take note that you have 2 free companies. You have the free city company as well as the free company, so you will definitely have a lot of mercenaries that you can rely on throughout your early wars. When we look at the trade map mode, we have a couple of merchants transferring trade from the Krakow and the Pest trade nodes. We actually are going to be keeping them here as this is the most optimal thing to do at the very start. And we only have 5% of the Vienna trade node, which is not a lot, and as such we're not getting too much money from it, but it's better than nothing. When discussing the rivals that you should go for, always go for Württemberg, Augsburg, and Ingolstadt as your rivals, as these are going to be the first three nations you want to be expanding into. Ingolstadt, also if you do rival them, you're going to have the option of allying München, and I actually recommend that you go for that as your first alliance option since they are quite strong and quite useful early on. A second good ally is going to be the nation of Kronstadt, since they are a free city as well, and you cannot expand into them, but you can use them in your wars against your neighbors. Later on, after you've devved up your nation a little bit more and you've expanded a bit as well as recruited the free companies, you will be able to get bigger allies, and I recommend that you improve and try to get alliances with the nations of Trier, Mainz, and Bohemia, as you want to get some of the electors on your side, and especially since they are considerably bigger than most nations around. I do not recommend recruiting the free companies right now. First off, what we want to do is actually get some claims on our neighbors, starting off with the nation of Ingolstadt, as most of the times Ingolstadt gets a PU over Landshut, and if that happens, it's going to be considerably harder to actually get the province of Donauwörth from them afterwards. One more really good nation to get an alliance with is the nation of Baden, but that only happens from the start if they also rival the nation of Württemberg. If they didn't rival Württemberg, then it's going to have to be that you need to improve relations with them, and I don't recommend that you waste your diplomat at the start to improve relations with them. Instead, I recommend that you use him to start getting claims on the nation of Augsburg and on the nation of Ingolstadt rather. The main goal as Ulm is going to be to form the nation of Swabia at the start, and you don't need to have admin tech 10 for that. You just need to have 10 provinces in the Swabian area which are Swabian culture. So that probably means that you're gonna have to take all of these provinces, since you will not be able to take Sundgau or Breisgau from the Austrians early on in the game, and as such taking over the other provinces is gonna be absolutely mandatory. You do have a small mission tree that will help you out with the provinces of Sundgau and Breisgau, namely after you do the Swabian League, you're gonna get a revolt in the provinces of Breisgau, Sundgau, and Donauwörth, which means that you get a chance of actually getting these provinces through an event, but it is not guaranteed. However, getting all of those will give you the allegiance to Ulm, which will happen in 5 days, and give you permanent claims on Brigance as well as the whole of Switzerland here, and a very nice event with some buffs. As your last mission in the Swabian mission tree, you're gonna get the permanent claim on the Tyrol area. A few months before you finish your claim on Ingolstadt itself, make sure that you start recruiting your free companies. I recommend starting with one of the free companies and getting the other one later on once you need them, rather than going over your force limit for no reason. And also, since you have a lot of extra mana points lying around, then you can also dev up your nation a little bit more just to get a bit more income to help you out. I recommend keeping the military points and not using them to dev up, and instead I recommend getting a general, since you definitely will need a few more pips in the war to come. Get your claim on the province of Donauwörth, which is a Swabian culture province that you definitely want to get from them. Wait for 1 day so you actually can get the CB on them, and then declare war with the conquest CB. You can co-belligerate Württemberg and take land from them also, but if they have a lot of good allies or just a lot of allies like they have in my situation here, it probably is not worth co-belligerating. We are still going to take land, but take a bit more aggressive expansion. I also recommend allying Salzburg, as a lot of the time Salzburg is also interested in lands that Ingolstadt has, and we're going to start this war. Make sure that we get over to Donauwörth and we occupy this province before anybody else that they are at war with is going to be occupying it. You can use your mercenary company at the same time to occupy the provinces of Württemberg, so that we take them out of the war earlier than we would have otherwise be able to take them. If you're lucky and you got a 1 siege pip in your general, then you're going to be sieging things a lot faster. As you can see, my other army that doesn't have any siege pip actually is sieging considerably slower than my main army. Once Ingolstadt is finished, make sure that you march on over to the other side so you have your armies close together. After you've taken the capital of Württemberg, I recommend that you piece them out rather than engaging their army, since you don't want to really just lose your army so early on, as you're going to take a while to get back your manpower. So it's best to just take the province of Urash. Even if you did not co-belligerate them and you're taking a lot of extra aggressive expansion, you need this province to make your connection to the western part of the Swabian lands. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck in this province for a very long time with no means means of expanding outwards. Also ensure that you go for the humiliation and take as much money as you can so that you get a bit of power projection, and as such you get even more monthly mana points. Start coring up the province here, and we're gonna take care of whatever is left of the Ingolstadt. Do take note that once you have a second city, you're gonna lose the free city government reform, so you're gonna have to change over from a free city to by default a oligarchy. From Ingolstadt we want to take both of these provinces, but before you take these provinces you're gonna have to wait for about 2 or 3 years, otherwise you're gonna get a massive coalition that you definitely cannot deal with at the very start. By seizing another 5% crownlands in 1449 as well as deving up your nation, you should be up to around 20 to 25% pretty early in the game, so you don't need to worry about the debuffs too much, and you can probably get rid of them within the first 15 to 20 years of the game. After you've cored all the provinces you've taken from Ingolstadt, I recommend that you also get a claim on the province of Baden. If the nation of Baden is still fully standing and not divided in two like it is in my game, then I recommend that you vassalize the nation of Baden. But because in my situation here Strasbourg decided to take half, then I recommend that you take Baden itself back. Around this time you should also get most of your technologies advanced, and close behind is going to be admin tech, which is going to follow up. You should have around 10 to 12 mana for each of the three if you've reselected your main starting ruler. Make sure your armies are ready for this, and we are going to be attacking Strasbourg. Now they are most likely allied to some nations such as Württemberg, 3 leagues, or etc. If that is the case and you feel like you cannot handle it, then you can also get the second free company, and as such we have the highest amount of free companies. If you do need to hire a second free company, make sure that you wait for a little bit until this second free company gets its morale up, and when you're ready, go ahead and declare war on the nation of Strasbourg. We want to take the province of Baden, and we want to take it as soon as possible. If you're fast enough, you can stack wipe both the armies that are most likely drilling at the start. When it is time to elect a third time, make sure that you elect the same guy if he is still available, so that you actually get him up to 666, so you're getting insanely high amounts of admin, military, and diplomatic points. Peace out Stuttgart if they have been allied to Strasbourg, and go ahead and take the humiliation as well as cancel all of their alliances, or as many of them as you can cancel. Make sure before you peace out the war target that you peace out their very many allies most likely, and if you have for example the situation such as the 3 leagues, what I recommend you do is that you actually just cancel the rivals that they have. This is going to give you 15 prestige, and 15 prestige is a big deal. If you can and you want to go for war reparation, that is a good deal also, but you would have to destroy their army for that. Personally, I wouldn't waste my manpower, as just recovering the manpower is going to be the same amount of money that you would need from what you're getting from war reparations. Now that we've pieced them out, we can piece out Strasbourg, and this is going to give us a small coalition of 4 nations, but if we wait until the 1st of January of the next year, this is going to be 0 coalition members, and we can take the province of Baden for ourselves. Also, depending on how long your awesome leader is going to stick around for, you're going to get your 5th tech group pretty early on. However, mine just died, so now I have to deal with a very bad leader, at least until he gets re-elected and improves his overall stats. The 1st of January has struck, and as you can see, we have no coalition against us for taking this one province. Do take note that if you do take this province, you're gonna have the emperor asking you to return it, and that's gonna give you some bad relations with everybody else. What I recommend if you want to avoid that is that you declare war on somebody else in the meanwhile. Now that we have 5 provinces in our nation, we can do the dominate Swabia mission. That's going to give us 1 diplo rep and improve relations for 20 years. To do the next mission, we need to have at least 8 provinces that are Swabian culture. We have 4, as Ingolstadt is Bavarian culture, that are either part of our nation or as an ally of ours, so we can get an alliance. I did cancel the alliance with Baden, however, as I want to attack them since they took over the province of Württemberg or Stuttgart, and as such, it is an easy kill for me. One of the bigger problems that you're gonna face when taking over the Swabian lands is the province of Memmingen, which is a free city. So as a free city, if we attack them, we'd have to fight off the emperor unless they have a lot of debt. One of the best ways of avoiding the emperor is actually attacking an ally of Memmingen and then co-belligerating Memmingen. If you do this, the emperor will not be joining, even if you did co-belligerate Memmingen. So you can do that and go ahead and attack, take over the province of Mulhouse in my situation, and Memmingen, both of which are Swabian. The only problem I will have is the fact that I don't have that much aggressive expansion to spare. That means that I have a lot of aggressive expansion right now, and I need to wait for it to go down before I can annex anything really. As Ulm, you're basically gonna have to wait a very long time, quite often, just so that you can expand once more. So one of the best ways to start playing as Ulm at the start is playing Toll. Taking over both Mulhausen as well as Memmingen is gonna give me a coalition of pretty much everyone in the HRE, so it is not viable. Instead, what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be piecing out Memmingen first, and we're gonna ask them to cancel all of their rivals as well as give us war reparations, which is gonna give us 17 prestige, so we're basically using them as our prestige farm. After that, we're gonna be piecing out Mulhausen also, and we're gonna ask them to give us the province of Mulhausen. This is not going to trigger any coalition, but it is 1460 and we've barely expanded a couple of provinces. This is extremely slow in my opinion. But the problem is playing in the south of Germany is extremely difficult, as playing in the south of Germany, every single one of these provinces is very high development compared to the northern part. So it is a lot harder expanding because of the aggressive expansion that you have to deal with. Whenever your truce with Baden expires, you can attack them also for the provinces that they have. But if you cannot take any provinces because of the aggressive expansion, then what I recommend instead is that you use your humiliation CB so that you can farm them for some extra mana points. Be careful, however, if they have an ally such as Provence, which is quite strong, you might want to wait out on the attack on Baden. After you've either conquered or allied Swabian cultured provinces, you're gonna have the Swabian League event that will trigger, which will give a lot more revolt opportunities in the provinces of Breisgau, Augsburg, and Sundgau, which are not owned by actual Swabian countries. So that being said, you have a decent chance of getting a rebellion here, and I actually recommend that you also improve that chance by sending rebels and supporting rebels in Austria. That being said, the chances of you actually getting these two provinces from the Austrians from rebellions are pretty slim, and what I recommend is that you just leave this for later, as you can still get Augsburg from Brigands, or Augsburg if they still exist, and the province of Memmingen the good old-fashioned way. The ideas that I recommend you go for when playing as Ulm are economic, quantity, and diplomatic ideas, as well as religious. The reason I recommend going for economic first is because as Ulm, it is best to play Toll from the very start, and playing for the economic game, you get minus 20 dev cost reduction from economic ideas, and from mixing in the policy between quantity and economic, you get an extra minus 10 dev cost reduction. As such, you can dev up provinces such as the one here in Mulhausen for roughly around 13 per development. This is of course if you've set the encourage development edict, and all of the other bonuses that you have you can see stacked up here. We start off at 12 development, and by deving this up a little bit, we can get it up to about 20 development, and we're still only paying 26 mana points per dev point. Same thing, Constance, 9 mana points to dev it up once, so we're gonna get dev it up like crazy as well, up until 20 to 21, and it's still gonna cost only 24 dev at 20 development. The reason I recommend that you go for quantity as your second idea is not just the fact that you can play Toll with these two ideas, but also you have 42,000 manpower in 1487 as a nation that started out as an OPM. Not to mention you get 381 men each month, which means that you actually can fight off against nations that are much bigger than you are. The reason you should go for the diplomatic ideas third or the religious ideas third is simply whether you want to start expanding like crazy once the age of reformation it starts, or if you go for diplomatic, you can use this to your advantage and diplomatically vassalize most of the nations that are smaller in the HRE and feed back the cores that they lost throughout the course of the game. If you go for diplomatic ideas, you also get a shot at becoming the Emperor of the HRE, which is worth going for. As a second military idea group later down the line, I recommend going for plutocratic ideas, as it also boosts up your economy by giving you one more merchant, goods produced modifier, and caravan power, but it also gives you manpower recovery, which you can mix in with the already boosted manpower recovery that you have from taking quantity, and plus 10 morale of armies. Once you have 10 Swabian culture provinces, you can also form the nation of Swabia, and I am gonna show you what the amazing color that they have is, it is this. It's basically barf. It is barf color. And just to show it off, I'm going to show you the traditions and ambitions that they have. These Swabian ideas include national manpower plus 20%, morale of armies plus 15%, state maintenance reduction, yearly inflation reduction, provincial trade power modifier, diplomatic relations 1, advisor cost and construction cost, prestige, and aggressive expansion minus 15%. Overall, they are decent ideas. What really shines is the fact that you have some more missions out in here, and if you follow your mission tree, you can get a big boost from taking over the Austrians, and you get claims on all of Austria. Having a foothold in the Italian peninsula means that you get claims on more of the Italian peninsula, and then you can also embark on a crusade, which is going to give you a temporary claim on provinces in the Balkans that are not owned by Christians. That means all of the Ottoman provinces. Freeing the Balkans gives you permanent claims on the Syrian parts here and the Palestinian parts, with the Kingdom of Jerusalem being your last mission on this side, giving you until the end of the game missionary strength and morale of armies plus 5%. Crushing the North Italians gives you more claims on the south, and claiming the southern parts gives you claims on the entire South German and Italian region. Having all of Italy and Germany means you get until the end of the game plus 1 prestige, which is better than nothing, I guess. One more thing to note is that if you've taken somehow the 2 provinces that the Austrians have, you can get the nation of Memmingen for free. They will decide to join your nation after you've taken all the other Swabian cultures provinces around this area. Expansion wise, after you've secured your home region, I highly advise that you embark on your own personal crusade against whatever is in Switzerland, as well as Austria itself and Bavaria, since this is the strongest and richest part of the HRE. By playing toll, as you can see, I have pretty much all of my provinces at about 20 or 30 development, and as such I am getting quite a bit of cash and I have a lot of troops, so definitely consider playing toll for the first 100 to 150 years, and then afterwards start blobbing out if that is what you want. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, as well as leave the bell button on to get notified whenever I release new guides. I also want to give a very big thank you to all my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much guys for all your support on Patreon and becoming a channel member. If anybody else wants to become a channel member or support me on Patreon, then you can check the links in the description. So until the next one, have a great day everyone.